as the motion capture double for Ahsoka on Clone Wars Season 7. Be on the lookout for Summer of Snips on the virtual Cantina network.
Hey, Rebels. Happy Monday.
Hi, everyone. Happy Labor Day Monday.
Happy Labor Day weekend.
Party.
Can't wear
Hope
white
everyone
after
is out
today.
partying. That's right. Switch to your other colored shirts.
Get on it.
Everything is always dark. Well, welcome to a very special episode of Star Wars Rebels Revisited. And as you can tell by the lovely lady to my immediate right, our resident little cat, Jamie, is here.
It's me. I'm back. I
So
was promised a warm meal, and here I am.
Yes. We left some loaf kibble on the porch for her. So so we're going to be discussing our favorite top 5 each Sabine Wren moments in Star Wars Rebels. So why else would we ask Jamie here? Like, Sabine all the way.
Yes, Sabine all the way. I think you kind of cross a line when you've actually dedicated to naming your kid after a Star Wars character, that anytime that Star Wars character gets mentioned, it's like, oh yeah,
it's Jamie.
Probably
okay.
show up to that. Here
Especially
I am.
when it's not Luke or Leia, which are sort of existing Earth names. Like, you can sort of get away with Luke and be like, okay, maybe. But Sabine is clearly, named after Sabine Wren. Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's definitely a nod. So here we are. And we're going to talk about Sabine, and I'm excited.
Good.
She is fantastic. Part of the Ghost crew, and awesome Mandalorian, wielder of the Darksaber. I'm curious to see how overlapping our list is. And just for everyone in the comments who are imaginary right now for us, this is a pre-record, but we do want you to put your top moments in the comments. And in fact, when we post to promote this video, we're going to ask you to think about that. Like, what are your big Sabine moments from Rebels? There are some bangers in here. So curious to see how much overlap we have as a group. And I think Ashlee is going to kick us off, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Do it.
So one of my favorite Sabine moments, I think, my number 5, because we're counting down, is her infiltrating the Imperial Academy. I mean, that took a lot of guts to do, considering she was an Imperial cadet, and it's probably brought up a lot of PTSD for her and what she had to do and building that weapon and for the Empire, and just going right back into the thick of it, but getting Wedge Antilles and Hobie out. It was huge. So she definitely put it all on the line for them, and she was successful.
It's a great
she
episode.
She also got a sick dye job on her hair.
Oh God,
the most normal we've seen her with her dark hair and everything, and I was like, oh girl, look at you.
I drew her for a Topps card with that haircut, and nobody knew who it was. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Watch Rebels.
I think the bright hair just sort of becomes synonymous with Sabine, so it's it's jarring when you see her with normal hair. You're like, who is this?
Yeah, trying to blend.
It was a good look.
She was one of the best at the Academy, too. I mean, I know she's a defector to begin with, but then her going back and then sort of schooling everyone, she could have slipped right back in. And, if she was on the other side, I don't know if we would have won the war. But she did a good job. She got us Wedge and Hobby. So, big props.
Yeah.
But, also the stress of, when her card doesn't, when her identity card doesn't quite go off with the droid.
So chill about it. So chill about it. I was just like, I would be freaking the hell out right now.
It's true, yeah. It's a high stress moment. And
she's like, oh no, you just need to wiggle it.
Question for Jamie. Did you have rescuing Wedge and infiltrating the Imperial Academy in your top 5?
A close number 6, actually.
Okay.
When I look at my list, it was
honorable
it was
mention.
Tie.
Yeah.
It was an honorable mention. That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
that's
it's a close
fair.
number 6.
It was on my list as number 4. So I think we're all in agreement that this was a big moment for her. One of the things I really love about Star Wars is, it is a war, but people do understand the sides for the most part, or they figure it out. I think a lot of people, as much as I hate a redemption story, and I was just screaming about this the other day, I don't like a redemption story for the really bad guys, the dark side users. I don't mind a defector. Biggs was a defector, Wedge was a defector. They all came from the Empire side because I've talked about this before. The Empire was the government. If you grew up, if you just were born and this is your government, and they may seem a little crazy, like I think like most governments do, but you sign up for the military or some type of government role, you might be in it for a while and then realize, oh wait, we're war criminals. We're on the wrong side. There's a chance to leave and do something better. And we see that from Sabine. She left. Yes, F the Empire. Fight them is what that F stands for.
It's a kid's show.
She chose to leave, and she helped Wedge get out. She helped Hobby get out, and she helped liberate a lot of different places, including Lethal. So
I think Sabine is also just a really great character to point out, just across all of our top fives. I'm sure we're all going to kind of touch on this, but how nuanced war is. I think it's really easy to be like good versus bad, but when you're, especially on a place like Mandalore, where war is so layered and so crazy and so nuanced for them, and then the Empire only makes it that much. Yes, the Empire only makes it that much more complicated. I think it's sort of like you said. It's like, well, I'm enlisting and I'm doing what I got to do, but only because like this is expected of me, and this is just sort of the way of life things down here. You start to see a fresh perspective, especially as she joins the Spectres. Suddenly, it's not quite as black and white as she may have thought it was.
Which for a kid show, very smart. You said that was number 6 on your list, agreeing with Ashlee that the infiltration of the Academy is big. What was your actual number 5?
My actual number 5. Oh god, like these are in like so I'm the most indecisive human being in the world. So like I have these lists.
Fine.
I'm gonna go with it. I'm just gonna commit and I'm gonna stick with it. I think it was actually Blood Sisters. It was the episode of Ketsu.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I love that
because Sabine is such an interesting character in that we see her have very marked different relationships with like everybody in the Ghost crew, right? But Ketsu was kind of the first opportunity that we saw of her having somebody from her past, having that really unique relationship with, and somebody that she had worked with, and having things go so sour, how she kind of has, or what that relationship kind of looks like from that point on.
right.
So I was really happy to see a character like Ketsu come in as a foil to her, right? Because Ketsu took her path and Sabine took her own, and seeing them come back together, and then ultimately seeing Ketsu become, part of the liberation of Lothal, was pretty great. I really liked that episode.
And the woman who plays the guest voice, she's from Firefly, and I'm blanking on her name
Torres.
right now. Yes, Gina Torres. Tremendous. So yeah, that's a great episode. We have not watched that yet in our Rebels revisited rewatches. So when we do that episode, we will bring you on, because that's a banger.
And Ketsu's such a great character too. Like I would love to see her kind of crop back up somewhere, like even a comic, like a mini run of like a comic series or something.
Yeah,
and just see what she's
and
up
she's
to.
in Forces of Destiny, so that was really cool to see her pop back up there. I agree with you. Actually, that Ketsu moment was my number 3, because you have her have you think of her as like, okay, I did something wrong. I got out of the Empire. I'm trying to make up for it. This is why I'm fighting in the rebellion. But you don't get to see the bounty hunter side of her past mentioned too often, and someone that was with her in a very dark time, probably a time where she felt more alone and orphaned and needed to survive in some way. So to get that level, like Sabine, we don't get too much of her story until very late in the series. So that's like the first step into a larger world when it comes to knowing Sabine, because she's always just kind of like, whatever, and I'm the artist and I'm the weapons expert. But this is a little bit more of her truth coming out.
Yeah.
So
it's true.
Mark, what was your number 5? Now I'm curious, because like we're all overlapping and I'm dying to know.
There's already multiple overlaps, right? So I actually did not have, I will say I didn't have Ketsu on my list, although that episode is I would say a must-watch Sabine episode. I have a different woman from the past that has caused problems for Sabine and a confrontation. I had Sabine confronting her terrible mother. Terrible mother who I hate so much.
She's
Ursa
complicated.
Wren.
She's not terrible.
I know. I just
she's terrible at first.
We then get to love her. So, which I guess there's redemption in that too. I'm doing a lot of contradicting of my own stuff where I say I hate redemption stories, but I was willing to forgive Ursa Wren, mostly because she's buddies with Bo-Katan, and Sabine allows it. Sabine allowed me to forgive Ursa Wren, but I think that whole journey back to visiting her family and seeing her mom being all stoic and like just like her mom felt like just so unloving and disconnected, and it goes back to the main theme of Rebels of like found family. Like, you
Mhm.
know, Sabine had to leave the Empire, right? She defected for the right reason, and then she lost everyone: her mom, her dad, the brother, like all of Mandalore, all that. She gave up a lot. Um, but it seemed like the mom was not very sad. It was more angry and disappointed. And there's nothing worse than like seeing that in a parent. So I
Mhm.
was just like, oh man, I was rageful during that episode. I can't, and there's so much happens in that episode, but like that moment of her fighting, just yelling at the mom, like on like her sitting on the throne far away, and just the tension, that for me that's a moment. We gotta make sure we watch that yet again, even though I know we've already done it on a rewatch.
That's an episode that has, I think, some of my favorite design choices in Rebels.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have this wild plan of like having Sabine's armor built when she's a little bit older, and then ultimately doing like Ursa armor to match with her.
Oh
But I'm
wow.
obsessed with
Oh.
the silver and gold, and the color scheme that they used for Earth,
Yeah.
because it's like gray and gold.
Tristan's armor
Um,
is killer. So
yeah,
that
the
would be
Wrens
Oh,
my
yeah.
really
I'm
like.
So yeah.
Yeah, the Wrens really walked out of there with some, some great armor.
I
Yeah.
want to see
And a
Tristan's
beautiful house.
armor like post Imperial Macquarie design. So that would be
Yeah,
cool.
there's some, but even like the artwork above her throne, and you know that
Yeah.
really Klimt style artwork is
You
really
can tell her dad really loved her family and just is very creative and probably painted all their armor when they were young and like
Hmm.
so good.
yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned that she come around on her though, because like I think
Yeah.
again, I think it's just another example of like how nuanced and how layered some of these characters are. Because like
Right. No
again, I
one's
try
one
to
note.
give the no one's one note, and I try to give the Mandalorians especially like a little bit more grace with some of their choices, because it is such a unique culture, and they are so like forged by war, and they're so that's like their whole lifestyle, that I think
Hmm.
it's not quite as relatable as like some other characters that we see like an Ezra or like a Hera, or well, Hera also is kind of forged by war, but you don't see that same kind of relationship out of like Ezra, for example. So
Yeah.
Right.
Did either of you guys have Ursa Wren fighting with Ursa Wren on the list?
No, I
I
didn't.
didn't have fighting with Ursa Wren, but I did have a mention of Ursa Wren.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
we'll save it then. All right. That takes us through number 5. All right, so number 4, Ashley, on to you.
Okay. Number 4 for me was Sabine painting the TIE
Yes.
fighter.
Also my
Um,
number 4.
it was just so cool to see something that we were used to seeing as like gray and boring and just a weapon of war literally look like a clown car, and Zeb and Ezra are in love with it and are so excited to have it, and they stash it because obviously it's extremely noticeable, and they left the tracking beacon on, and but just to see what she's capable of and taking these pieces of armor and pieces of war machinery and turning them into a creative outlet is just like it's so cool to me. And it was the first glimpse we got, other than like obviously her armor, that she's trying to make the world a little bit better.
It was also my number 4, incidentally,
Yeah.
Fire Across the Galaxy, for that reason. And also because I think that was the episode where we have. I think about okay, shocking to nobody. I think about Sabine a lot. Uh, I think about her a lot, right? Because this is a character who we just talked about, like literally lost her entire family, her entire
Right.
circle, her entire group, and she comes to the Spectres as like this deeply affected and this deeply changed child. She's like it's like 15, 16 years old. So she's a literal child who's just gone through all of this trauma, and this is the first time where it becomes clear that she could lose another member of this like newfound family, and losing Kanan would be, no better than having just lost all of her family. So Fire Across the Galaxy, and knowing that Sabine um put all of that effort into painting this ridiculous TIE fighter that was eventually going on a mission to hopefully go save Kanan. I think it was a good episode for Sabine, because it just sort of showed where her loyalties now lived.
Hmm.
So
And it's
big fan
also
of
a
that.
great way to really hone in on her art, because
Hmm.
she's Mandalorian, she's a warrior, she's a
Mm,
weapons expert, she's an Imperial defector, but she's also like at her core an artist, right?
right.
More than anything else. And she like invented the rebel symbol,
Hmm.
basically by drawing the phoenix, which I think it was, I forget who actually looked at it and said we need to use that, but that's what became the Rebel Alliance symbol, basically, is the Phoenix
Yeah.
Squadron symbol. So her art is long lasting and has impact and has affected people in a positive way. And I didn't have this on my list, but as you're saying it, I was like, oh, did I want to bump something off? Because like I feel like the TIE fighter and the in general of like just her art, like when she
Yeah.
graffitis stuff, that's one of the nice through lines through the series too. It starts
Yeah.
with like graffiti on Lothal to the Phoenix symbol to the TIE fighter, to at the end of the series when she's evaluating the mural and understanding how to get into the world between worlds because she's working to identify like the Mortis gods, right? She doesn't know
Mm.
anything about the Mortis gods. We do because we're viewers, but she's analyzing the painting. Like her love of art and her knowledge of art really separates her from pretty much everyone else, other than Thrawn. He's probably the only
Mm.
other person other than her dad who understands even like the slightest bit about art until we get to like
And that
the
one
Andor show,
cringy moment with Lando on the ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah.
And yet he
Oh, Lando.
understood, which was shocking because it was just like, okay,
Yeah.
that's weird, but
Oh,
okay,
Lando,
good for
never
him.
change. But also
Never
change a lot,
change.
please.
That scene
Okay.
only gets worse when you realize how old he is and how young she is, and you're just like, oh, Lando,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh,
Right?
Lando.
oh.
He doesn't know how to not be Lando.
You're right.
Lando
Yeah.
being Lando. It works every time.
So
Nice.
you guys had for number 4 the TIE fighter painted. My number 4, as I
Yeah.
mentioned, and the last one was rescuing Wedge and Hobby from the
Mhm.
Imperial Academy. So we're already up to number 3. We're like flying through this list over here.
I know.
So we'll have to talk about bigger things as we go as well. We're in no rush, but all right, Ashlee, give us your number 3.
Let's see. My number 3 was when she and Hera have difficulty, like the whole trust thing. Um, she's trying to feel like she's a part of something, and as the Ghost Crew gets more and more involved in um, the rebellion and bigger cells in the rebellion, she's trying to get in and find her place and her importance in this rebellion, and Hera's kind of closing her off. So having that moment with Hera where they just end up on that asteroid with those little crazy shadow demons and stuff, and the girls are doing it for themselves and taking out all those little demons. That was a really cool moment for me because it allowed them to bring down the walls and understand what each of them are going through. Like Hera's trying to protect them by having them know as little as possible, so that if the event they get captured or anything else, that everything is still safe. Like she has bigger plans in mind for this, and Sabine kind of earns a little bit of that trust by just learning to listen. And it's like a mother-daughter thing. It's her having a mother figure in her life who is willing to listen and understand her and not kind of demean her as Ursa did.
Hmm.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
still
she
don't
knows
like
not
Ursa Wren.
to. She doesn't want to blindly follow orders, which is why she left the Imperial
Yeah.
Academy.
Right.
That's the episode Out of Darkness in season
Mhm.
1. So we get that
1-7,
little
yeah.
bit of like little breadcrumb of backstory early on, but we don't get the whole story until much later.
So it's funny because that's also on my list, but a little bit high. I have that actually coming in it too. What number? We're on 3. I
We're
don't
on 3
math.
already. Yeah.
Yeah, my math it's not just counting. It's not even
Yeah.
math. How embarrassing is that?
It's keeping track.
I
That's how we lose track. We're not good at that. We
it's
don't stay
true.
on the rails.
I have
Like
no
we've
idea
all
what's
watched
going
this
on
show
anymore.
before. Yeah.
How did I get here? What's going on? I actually chose Heroes of Mandalore.
Oh,
So the top
nice.
of season 4. For a few reasons. Season 4 feels like something I talk about with my therapist, so I tend to not do a lot of rewatching of season 4. Like literally I'll watch like the first 2 or 3 episodes of season 4 before I'm like, wow, it's really a shame that there are only like 6 episodes of Rebels in season 4 because my emotional stamina can't handle the rest of it. But Heroes of Mandalore for a couple of reasons. It's a mess. I'm a mess. Bet y'all
We still
regret
love you.
having me on the
But
show this one
that's
time.
that's this
Star
this
Wars
whole
is trauma,
community.
yes.
Yeah. And
It really is.
so I was rewatching a video on Rebels season 4, and they flashed the black and white logo,
Yeah,
which
forget
happens
it.
after. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
and just seeing the logo
Mhm.
in black and white, I could like feel the soul leaving my body. I was
Yeah.
like, what,
Mhm.
you know. Um, whereas just like there was nothing else. They didn't show other things that happened in the episode. They just flashed
That's all it
that, and I was
takes.
like, yeah, and I'm like, I'm immediately traumatized. So
All it
no, I
takes.
get it. This show
Um,
does things to you when you're too deep into it. I
When
feel like.
when you're avid watchers, you're just totally like it's yeah. The
well, and
PTSD
it's
is
funny
really up.
because I've been guiding people through their Star Wars journey now for which this sounds so stupid, but like I've literally been like the person guiding people, and I'm sure you two have as well,
Mhm.
guiding people through their Star Wars rewatches and how to read certain books and how to prepare certain things. And I always get like all of these people who are like so emotional over season 4 of Rebels, and I I think they're expecting me to be more emotional about it too, but I'm just like, I can't even talk about it. Like
Yeah.
I've seen Jedi Knight. I can count on one hand the number of times I've seen Jedi Knight.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
same.
I'm good. I know what happens. I'm all set.
Mm.
I don't need to relive that trauma. And frankly, I take it personally every time somebody on like Instagram or Facebook or whatever posts exactly that moment from Jedi Knight. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are
Yeah,
you posting
Spencer,
this?
what's wrong with you? Why are you making me
Spencer?
draw this on a sketch
Yeah.
cover? Spencer.
Anybody? Yeah, seriously. I was like, wow, Ashley's most recent artwork is so beautiful. Too bad I never want to look at it ever again.
I know.
Yeah.
The most,
I gotta
like,
tell
the
you,
most
when
complimentary way ever.
I was a licensee during the finale, and we were doing photos, and I had to get the photo of Kanan doing, holding back
Forget
the
it.
fireball and with
Rude.
the eyes lit up, and just all that stuff, and getting ready for Celebration 2019. And I was like, I need these big moments. I need the slashed mask for Vader, for Matt Lanter to sign. I needed like all of these traumatizing moments, including
Terrible.
for Freddie Prinze. And the Ezra shot too. It was everything. I was
I love
like, oh
his
man.
reasoning for that scene. He's like, "Oh, I didn't say anything. It was just all Kevin Kiner's music." Like, bro, you're the reason why this scene is happening. You wanted
Yeah.
this to happen.
I
We're
will
all
say,
suffering because of
if
you.
we're gonna talk about Sabine moments, I feel like we can't. And I'll get back to my number 3 in a second. But I feel like we can't not talk about like the emotional impact of Kevin Kiner's Sabine score,
Mhm.
like the song he wrote for Sabine. Like,
Yeah, her theme is
hello.
really strong.
It's
Yeah.
a beautiful one, yeah, and I
Love
think,
it.
when people think about, like, strong themes, like, especially, like, strong female themes, like, we could have a whole episode of Daughters about this with
Yeah,
Leia's
the
theme and
music.
Rey's
Ray's
Yeah.
theme,
theme.
but,
Yeah.
I
like,
love
hello, Sabine's
Leia's.
is, like, right up there.
Mhm.
So, just
There
saying,
was a
Kevin Kiner.
soundtrack release for, I think, the first 2 seasons, but they
Yeah.
never released it officially for 3 and 4. They've gotta do a
Mhm.
vinyl box set.
Mhm.
I'm gonna email my guy at Lucasfilm.
Listen,
Do
Yeah.
it.
Mark, send your guy some, notes there, because yeah, I
Yeah.
would for sure buy
But
those.
the joke is if I want something, no one else does. So if I
No,
email
Oh
my
no, we'll buy
consumer
that.
products guy at Disney and be like, "Hey, I just had a question about," they're like, "Absolutely not, Mark Runnell, and you're in our list." So, like they know.
it's like the
They
no-fly
absolutely.
list, but,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
for nurses.
They're like, "Oh,
Star
Mark
Wars.
wants it. Cancel the release." I joked actually that like once the HasLab decided it was the Ghost, it wasn't going to take off because I was interested in it, and they were like, "No, don't worry, everyone likes the Ghost now. You were just you were a beta tester on that one. Like I was
Ugh,
early." I was like, "Thanks, I appreciate that."
ugh.
But yeah. Okay, we were knee deep in your number 3, and I've already
No, it's
forgotten
cool.
what it is.
It was the top of season 4. It was Heroes of
Oh yeah.
Mandalore.
Oh right. Heroes of Mandalore. That's a great
Yeah.
one.
So
See,
we
I didn't
get it's 2
organize mine
episodes.
quite by episode necessarily. I was picking
Yeah,
individual
mine's just
moments.
like a bunch of
That's a
lists,
must-watch episode.
unnumbered.
It
Must watch.
is. And
Yeah.
honestly, like I have the episodes, but really it's like half the time I don't remember what happened in what episode because I have a really terrible short-term memory. So a lot of it is like the absolute struggle of like, wait a minute, was that season 1, 2, 3, or 4? What
Hmm.
episode was it in? And I have to like look
I'm
stuff
there
up
with
on
you.
Wikipedia on the regular. But the reason
Yeah.
why this episode was
I have it
here
open right now.
was
Yeah, it's always
the
open during our show. I have to
it's
check.
true.
I'm at
It's true.
IMDb and the Wookiee are in the Google Doc between
Yeah,
the 3 of
100%.
those, and I
For
still can't
real.
find the answers. You've seen me on
No,
this
but
show being like,
it's
yeah,
the episode where you see her own weapon being fired literally on what she thinks is her family. Hello?
yes, the Duchess.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, not about that. And then just watching these people drop and their armor literally being turned to dust. And this poor girl is like, how much more emotional trauma can this
yeah.
poor girl handle? It's shocking. But I love that episode for the reason because like the last time that the Ghost Crew saw her, they were leaving her behind with her family. You know, they had that big emotional goodbye. She really felt like she could do more effective work, or she needed at least the time to be with her family to try to help her family's cause. And then the crew comes back to help save her dad, and like under the worst circumstances. I feel like it's just a whole thing. And that's again, when people are like, oh yeah, what'd you think of season 4? I kind of do like the dissociating stare where I'm just like, I don't think I want to talk about season 4 actually.
It's too hard.
So bleak.
It's
It's
bleak
just a
is
kid's show.
I use the word bleak all the time on here.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars really is in all of its forms. Even Resistance is like oddly bleak,
It
right?
ended
Yeah.
very bleak. Like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
like
It
happy
sure
go
did.
lucky, and like all the tables turned, and I was just like, wait a minute, am I watching the same
Yeah.
show that I was
Yeah,
watching last season?
because guess what?
Hello.
It's a prequel to. Well, I guess it's also
Yep.
then in line with the First Order fight. So things weren't going well in the galaxy. Hey, Ahsoka.
She wants to be on
Um,
the show. She
So
likes to be.
Ashley mentioned her number 3. You mentioned your number 3. Jamie, I'm very close in line with yours because my number 3
Okay.
is from the episode
Okay.
Heroes of Mandalore. It is destroying the Duchess weapon,
Yeah.
which is it's basically, I mean, trauma, bleak, heartbreaking, etc. Right? Like the fact that she made the weapon that was specifically used to target her own people, in their armor,
And
and
we
then that
see it in
scene.
action.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and they named it the Duchess, just to rub salt in the wound because you know how I feel about Duchess
Oh my
Satine. I mean, I'm wearing the son of Duchess Satine right now. We got
Still
King
the
Corky
sun.
over here,
Forever
who
the
is
sun.
definitely, coming to live action at some point. I believe it. So we'll find out where.
We're
But
manifesting.
yeah, so
Light your
we're gonna make
candles.
we're gonna make it happen. Exactly. We worship at the altar of Corky Kreese. But like the Duchess weapon was such a twist of like, oh, we knew she was making weapons. We had no idea what it was. But then she defeats everyone. She takes down T-Bar Saxon. She blows it up, and then she figures out how to actually tune it to destroy stormtroopers. But like, because this is a kid show and the heroes still have to be somewhat heroic, she like stops that from happening. I would have downloaded those plans and sent them out to everyone I ever met. I would have
Mm-hmm.
fried every stormtrooper alive, but that's me.
Mm-hmm.
But she will not do that because she is still a good person, and the light side of the Force resides in her more so than the dark side.
Yeah, not
So
everybody has it,
yeah,
and she's seen it firsthand. Not everybody has the choice to be a stormtrooper. Like it's
right.
not always something they believe in. So
Hmm.
it'd just be like
Yeah,
genocide for her. So
yeah. Oh darn. Oh nuts. So I know I'm terrible. I realize I'm voicing an unpopular opinion that we're just gonna kill everyone indiscriminately. Chopper's your favorite character, and he's the most
I
war criminal of all
know,
of
and
them.
yet I still have
So
a heart.
I know, but he's cute because he's a droid. So that's my
He's a
number
war
3. So also
veteran.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's a war veteran. I saw the greatest meme, and it was Vader walking through the hallway, and it was like injured war vet fending off terrorists, and I was like, yes, that's brilliant. So it's all from a certain point of view. It's technically true.
Always.
But yeah,
Yes.
so number 3, defeating destroying the Duchess weapon with you straight from that same hero. That whole Heroes of Mandalore 2-parter. What a great
Mm-hmm.
way to kick off the final season, bringing the
Seriously.
2 families together, resolving the major conflict that was
Mhm.
Mandalore related, being able to send Mandalore into its own stream of content. It actually did a lot of like world building and sort of building blocks to other
Right.
content, but didn't feel like setup. I was like, oh, Bo-Katan's back and she's got the Darksaber. Maybe they'll go do their own thing, but it really served the purpose of the story for the Rebels crew
Yeah.
and Sabine. They weren't just like far scumping their way through history, which I was getting nervous of when too many other
Mhm.
things pop in, but they were really effective there. They got the dad back. They mended relations with Ursa and the dad, and Tristan was involved, and
And
it
the
all
first
worked
thing the
out.
dad says is, "You repainted your armor."
Yeah. He had some good like back and forth with her about art for a
Yeah.
hot second. So that was
Like,
cute.
And it's
You just saved my life. Oh, your armor looks great.
Yeah.
it's a side quest worth taking because I think,
Yes.
especially as we have seen a lot, like I use the Clone Wars as an example because, frankly, again, having guided so many people through watching Star Wars, especially the animated series, I don't believe anybody for a second when they're live. I loved every episode of the Clone Wars because there is
Oh,
so
too
many side
Filler.
stories and arcs and bits and pieces where, I mean, there are some arcs of the Clone Wars that if I never watch again, it'll be too soon just because it
Mhm.
could not hold my attention. So when we see
Good, it's not just me. Okay.
That's
no.
cute.
And listen, I I say that as somebody who loves the Clone Wars, but I say that
Right.
as somebody who's like, okay, I'm all set with this arc. I can skip this one. I've seen it once.
Yeah. And then
But
there are
with
others you
Rebels,
probably watch over and over again, right? Like
absolutely
I
there
must have
are.
watched Mortis
100%.
25 times. Yeah.
That's the
Right.
one.
Because
Yep,
it's
that's
so
the one.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one. And the conflict over Ryloth, Storms over Ryloth, or
Oh,
whatever it is
yeah.
with Mace. I'm like,
Yeah.
absolutely, let's party.
Yeah.
But you know, I do get a little nervous when I start to see like, oh, okay, we're like we're not seeing the whole crew. Like, what's going on? Is the side quest gonna be worth taking? And it was the first time where I felt like, and again, this is probably a unpopular opinion, but like the Mandalorians as a culture were always a little bit too much for me. Like I couldn't keep up with all of the war and who was on whose side and it was just too much for me. This was the first time where I actually felt like it was really approachable and it was enjoyable for me to watch, and I wanted to know more and I wanted to learn more. So like, thanks Sabine, appreciate that.
Yeah. She's your Trojan horse into the rest of me.
She really is.
Just like Grogu was for I think every other person in America. Like
correct.
If Sabine didn't get you in, Grogu did.
Grogu did.
Never cared about Star Wars before. Here's an adorable baby.
Exactly.
Surprise! Now you do.
It is interesting that there are so many on-ramps for Star Wars. You know, if you were a certain age, the Clone Wars would have brought you in, Rebels for kids, and then I think for people our age, just wanting to continue the Clone Wars in animation. If you're an animation fan, I don't know if Resistance was an effective on ramp, but it certainly existed. And then Baby Yoda.
I think it was.
Yeah,
I think it was. And it's interesting now, like as a parent of a toddler, you know, we don't do a lot of TV and we don't do a lot of screen. She doesn't do iPads or any screen times or anything like that. But you know, I try to vet like the television shows that I'll let her watch, and I mean, it's like you said, the on-ramps are crazy and they're starting younger and younger because my 2-year-old has seen every episode of Young Jedi Adventures and is completely obsessed with it. She has like outside like a whole hangar of ships and speeders and lightsabers and like but that's her on-ramp, right? So as she gets older,
then next it's like Forces of Destiny, and then you'll get into Rebels, and then probably Clone Wars. If we think about the way it ages,
So
my niece is going through that. She's now 6, so I already went through the like Paw Patrol. I don't want to say it's a phase. She still does Paw Patrol, but she's on the tail end of that. And Bluey. But we have a 2-year-old in the mix now. So now, I know. By the way, Bluey is the best show on television. I mean,
your television.
Like,
that's our next podcast.
Television. Yeah, we're gonna start a channel all about Bluey because
Bluey Revisited.
Get ready.
I've watched on my own without my niece's presence. That show is high quality. I love it. It's just very cute, and it's so Australian too.
Just
and apparently
taking
kids are like,
a nap, love. Oh, I love it.
The language of that show. I realize it's English, but it's not, right? Because it's like Australian English, and so they say words that don't exist for us. And apparently, little kids are going around like doing fake Australian accents and saying the words. So
at least it's better than Peppa Pig. Oh my God, Peppa Pig.
I do not like Peppa Pig.
Taught my friend's kid how to be rude and mean and British.
Who was the other one? There was that bald kid that everyone hated.
Callaloo or whatever.
Caillou.
Yeah,
no one liked him.
My niece did. My oldest niece is obsessed.
Look, I'm sure Star Wars Adventures with the Young Jedi kids is way more interesting.
Listen, Young Jedi Adventures is it's great, and this is my one. I get one every show, I think, where I'm allowed to talk about the High Republic for one sentence, but it's also a great entry point for the High Republic. Just saying.
Look, I'm all in. They published a timeline recently, and because the timeline keeps expanding, which I think is also a good thing. Get us out of the Skywalker zone.
Please, for the love of God.
What's interesting though is like there's so much stuff in that what used to just be Age of Rebellion that they had to break it up into the Reign of the Empire and Age of the Rebellion because there's so many shows and things living in the time period already, and they didn't even mention anything. Like the only thing that had publishing listed in there was High Republic and the High Republic time period. If you actually look at all the comics and the books and everything, it's also overstuffed in that same area. So it's all in the same zone. So I'm glad now that they've moved that out. But yeah, I actually completely forgot that like
they sure are.
The Jedi, the Young Jedi stuff was in High Republic time period. I fully forgot. But yeah. You got to start your book show.
Jamie posted a link to an Instagram account that has all of the High Republic books broken down. So I got right on following that ASAP as soon as I saw your post. I'm like, yay!
It's a lot.
I can stop harassing her.
My Excel spreadsheet of
I love an Excel
publishers
spreadsheet.
and editions, and it's Listen, when you're a type A personality, you really just lean into it.
I feel you. I
Just
stamp
go,
all my
girl.
projects in Excel and map it out that way. That's how things have to
It's
go. So
it's rough.
vacations included. Like
Yeah. Oh
like
yeah.
Excel is the plan.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, especially Disney. Yep,
oh, without a doubt.
I'm
Um,
down.
It's a whole thing. Whole
so
thing.
we are in our top two now.
Top two.
And we've already had a lot of overlap. I'm assuming, just based on this list, we're gonna have the same top two for the most part. So
I think we have the
Maybe.
same top one. My
yeah, I
guess
think
is
so
ours too.
too.
Definitely.
Jamie, did you already have a top? Did one of our items overlap with your top two already?
Yes.
Okay.
It was Ashlee. It was Out of
Okay.
Darkness with Hera.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, Ashley, what is your top two or your number two?
My number 2 is actually at the end of Heroes of Mandalore when Sabine gives Bo-Katan the Darksaber, because as someone who is unfamiliar with the history behind the Darksaber, Sabine made the choice diplomatically. Like, Bo-Katan is, a Mandalorian royal family, and she's come from the line of leaders, and who better to lead than an actual leader? Like, she knows where her shortcomings are and what she wants to do, and there's still so much she wants to do with fighting for the rebellion. She's not about to sit back and lead and take a diplomatic role. She wants someone who's strong and has enough presence, and wants what's best for their people,
Mm.
and who
And an
better than
actual
Bo-Katan?
adult. Like
Yeah,
An
Sabine's still a
actual
kid.
adult.
she's 16
Yeah.
years old. Like,
Yeah.
Sabine's
For
a
sure.
child. She's a minor.
Yep.
Lando didn't realize that, but Sabine's a minor.
God.
And Bo-Katan is like a veteran of the Clone Wars. She made some bad choices, but she rebounded from that. Redemption. We should just pop that onto the screen every time another redemption
yeah,
story happens. It seems like everyone. And because she followed Maul, made some bad choices, but then teamed up with Obi-Wan. She has not just the royal bloodline, she has experience and capability. She's actually qualified to do the job, and she already has like a big group of people behind her who kind of want her to be the Queen of Mandalore, right?
Mhm.
Like you would vote for her. You actually like cast a vote for Bo-Katan if there was like a voting democracy kind of style on
hmm
Mandalore. And it wasn't just about having the dark saber. Yes, everyone gets a redemption. But yeah, it made sense when Sabine handed the Bo-Katan the dark saber to Bo-Katan. I was all in. I was like, oh, and Mandalore lived happily ever after. You know, who knew? But it was the right move for sure.
definitely.
Yeah, there was no way she was gonna end up, being a ruler. I don't think.
No.
Because I also think though, like it's less even about like the not having the skill, not having the competency just yet. But I think she has kind of a good thing going with the Ghost Crew, and like knowing that
Oh
she's
yeah,
making more of a difference for the entire galaxy as opposed to just
Mhm.
Mandalore.
Yeah.
I think that's growth for her, right? So
yeah,
she's moved out of her circle, she's moved out of her family, she's moved out of her world, and now she's seeing the direct impact that her actions have on an overall much larger fight within the galaxy. I the only sticking point I have with that, because I do think it was a good moment, is that I feel like um the lore of the dark saber and how one acquires the dark saber ends up getting a little bit sticky
Hmm.
as we go into like the Mandalorian, especially of how you wield the dark saber and who's eligible to hold the lightsaber and the dark saber. So it gets a little sticky there, but I don't think it bothered me enough in the moment that I was just like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
she didn't defeat her in battle. Um,
Yeah, and it
eh,
was never clear that you couldn't really gift
yeah.
it,
gift it.
but
Mm.
Here you go.
so yeah, done and done. And
It's
like,
your
I
problem
mean,
now.
Sabine did defeat Gar Saxon to
Mm,
get it from him, but who
mhm.
knows how Gar Saxon really got it? That's really the which wait no because
No,
Sabine
No,
you're
got it
thinking
from
Maul.
yeah
yeah,
because
The scene with the on Dathomir.
yeah see I lose track now. I had it written out
And
because
honestly, I was right there with you. I was like, yeah, that sounds right. And then I was like, wait a minute, no, it
but
doesn't.
but Sabine
that's
did
later.
fight Gar Saxon because Gar
She sure
Saxon is
did.
actually number two. My number two is actually Sabine defeating Gar Saxon in that fight,
Yeah,
and
cool.
Sabine has Ezra's lightsaber and he has the
Yes.
dark saber. Um,
They got
and that
he
was
gets a
awesome.
jetpack.
Yeah, and she
Yeehaw.
she takes him down and chooses not to kill him, and then
Right.
he was going to try to shoot her, and the mom comes to the rescue. So Ursa Wren redeemed redemption. So we're just gonna pop that up everywhere.
She just
We
had to
should just
kill somebody to get
yeah,
it.
exactly. Look, I'm all for that.
Redemption's for
Like
all. Yay.
I believe strongly in Star Wars. We need to stop taking prisoners because it's not working. All the prisoners escape. All the bad guys keep getting out. Just
You'd
kill
think
them.
they'd learn.
No,
Yeah.
because we get Fen Rao for that. So I heart Fen
Yeah,
Rao.
I
He's
love
just
Fen
a
Rao.
grumpy guest, as
Yeah,
Kanan
and he
called him.
becomes a hero. Oh my god, he's another one who gets redemption. Damn it. This is terrible. All right, we're gonna make a running list. All right, there's gonna be an episode where we do.
Terrible.
We'll
I
do
don't
all
know.
the redemptions in Rebels.
It's gonna be a VCN
Chancellor,
special
you get a
presentation.
redemption.
Yeah, VCN special presentation redemption, and it's gonna be all the characters who started as bad guys who became good guys. And do
Oh,
we
boy.
agree? Yes or no?
Fennec
That's
Shand.
gonna be a
That's some
spicy
talk.
topic.
Yeah,
That's gonna be
I'm ready.
real
I'm ready to fight.
spicy.
But Garsaxon and Sabine, that their fight was fantastic, and I thought it was a
Yeah.
real standout moment. It's also in the same episode where the same two-parter where Sabine like deals with her mom, and then the mom turns it around by killing Garsaxon. So nothing says I love you like killing an enemy. So I'm all in on that. So
Parenting
this is how
101.
Mandalorians show love. You know how like the love languages are like physical touch,
Yeah.
buying gifts, compliments. With Mandalorians, it's like physical violence against your enemies. Like
This is
I
the
think
way.
that's
Buying
I love
deadly
that.
weapons.
Yeah, exactly. Here, I'm gonna
Great.
give.
Or
Yeah,
in the
gift
case
giving
of
was like, here's
Mr.
this armor.
Wren, oh, your armor looks great.
Yeah, there you go.
You know,
That's
I see you're
compliments,
growing.
good
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, I love everything
It's
about
really
that
dark.
episode. I also thought Garsaxon was a really solid villain.
Ray Stevenson, you guys.
I
Yeah.
know.
The
So
first appearance of the late Ray Stevenson in Star
yeah,
Wars.
he
so.
was great in that role, and I always wanted him to sign
Yeah.
autographs for us, and we never got him at Tops. I don't know why that was the case, but I thought Garsaxon was a worthy villain for season 3 in the
Totally.
Mando space. He wasn't like the big
Mm.
bad of the season because we had
Mm.
Thrawn looming and we had Governor Price, but Garsaxon as a specifically
Yeah.
Mandalorian threat, and then T-Bar Saxon as like the follow-up, I thought
Mhm.
was good. I really loved Garsaxon though, and Fen Rao being involved on the other side of the conflict, training
Yes.
with Sabine. It all worked for me, and I realized that much like the Clone Wars, these episodes all sync up, but they happen across the season, so it's like a really long, broad story.
Yeah.
Super well done, and kept me compelled.
It's another way to watch
Exactly.
the show too. Like I know, talking to people, I'm like, well, depending on how much time you have, if you really just want to watch, this Mandalorian conflict unfold, you can watch this episode, this episode, this episode, this episode, and you'll get the whole story without necessarily seeing what's going on with the rest of the crew.
Which I think as we were getting ready for Mando season 3, we were sort of honing in on that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
I would agree. Is if you're getting ready for that, I think it's the perfect way to watch Rebels to get ready for the Mandalorian. But
like I mentioned last Monday, my friend recently watched Rebels for the first time, and when we got to the Garsaxon episode, I remembered that it was Ray Stevenson, and I just started tearing up. And he goes, "You're crying over the bad guy?" I'm like, "No, it's Ray Stevenson."
Yeah,
the actor. It's sad, but yeah, I was at work when he was watching Jedi Knight, and he goes, "Oh crap, what did you make me watch?" He's like, "Oh, now I'm all invested," and he's like, "I can't watch anymore. Don't make me watch more." I was like, "No, you're almost there. You got like a few episodes left.
Yeah,
you're almost at
that
the end.
point, just finish it."
Yeah, at this point, you've come that far, but he was just really pissed that it happened.
Yeah. My friend it just texted me. I mean, this is a couple days ago. Can you not see it because the white box in the middle is the Star Wars logo. Just after having watched it, I was like, "Are you trying to kill me?"
Pretty much the rest of those episodes is like that meme of Oscar Isaac just looking straight forward with his coffee cup and his big like depresso beard on, and you're just like, "Meh, this is awful."
Yeah. It's like, thank you for the
tough.
trauma, and we're gonna have to talk about this forever. So, or never again. You sort of go in one of the many directions.
And yeah, it's one of the things that we talk about the most because it's such a catalyst for the rest of things.
Yeah.
In Rebels, like it's the reason why they defeat the Empire in Lothal, why they defeat Thrawn. Yeah, it's a big thing.
I think. Yeah, I think at this point now, I have a feeling that all three of us have the same moment as our top moment for Sabine.
It's gonna be really awkward.
Our number one. Yeah, it'll be funny if like on the Inquisitor list when Ashley had Chopper fighting the eighth brother as her number
Oh,
one
come on.
enemy
He's
for
sitting there with the
Inquisitors.
joystick and he's just like,
Yeah.
like, I
And
loved it.
I like laughed her out of the room. I was like, it's not even in my top 10, Ashley. Like,
Well,
what's
so
going
this is
on
gonna be
here?
really
So
awkward because my number one moment is actually when she and Chopper are painting that mural on Zeb and Ezra's wall. So I mean, this is really awkward. See
Yay!
myself out.
Oh my
love that.
gosh.
Can you imagine if I said that was
Whenever
my
I
number
mention,
one? Ah!
yeah, that would be great. You know what? Here's the thing. There's so
That
many
was my
great like
honorable mention. That was my number
yeah.
6.
Anything art related with Sabine, you could convince me. If you told me it was like
Yeah.
hanging out at the mural, I'd be like, yeah, it's
I
super
want that on
important.
a shirt though. Like I
Yeah,
need that on a shirt. Like it just
yeah.
Or I can't believe that none of us have mentioned the graffiti of Rex and Kanan on the back
Oh
of
yeah,
what Phantom 2? Phantom 2? Yeah,
yeah.
Phantom
David.
2.
Oh
Like,
man,
come on, so good. They hate each
there's
other
Like
so much in that moment.
seriously.
yeah.
Going through the Rebels art book and seeing the designs for her
Good
graffiti,
one.
it's probably one of my favorite batches in that book. Like it's just so creative and fun and chibi and really cute and just
They leaned in really heavy in the style guide for Rebels season 1 on all the graffiti stuff. So I know as a licensee, we were getting all. So you should have seen like the stack of stuff that was in the style guide that then made it into like apparel, and we put some
Mm.
stuff into trading cards. But that
Mm.
artwork was everywhere. They did a ton of graffiti stuff for Sabine, and it would
yeah.
all look fantastic. I'm
Okay,
pretty
can you
sure
bring
that
that
like
back, please?
yeah, I
We
know,
need
right?
it.
Like yeah, they
Just
need
give
to.
it. Look at
I never
Jamie's
got
shirt.
to
Look at
do.
Jamie's gorgeous sweatshirt
Listen,
I
from
know.
a fan of.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's from a fan of.
yeah,
So
Yeah, I
I
cool.
can't
love
see it
it.
all the way up right now, but yeah, I mean, it
Girl.
definitely works well for
For today.
Oh yeah, it translates to
well, not
apparel
just for today,
perfectly.
but like apparel and for
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never got
accessories
to
and stuff.
do my like full Star Wars Rebels trading card set. Like I had built out a brief, like a product brief of
No.
like what a full series would look like in trading cards, and I had some specific inserts, and there was going to be a whole like Art of Sabine kind of thing, because I wanted every character to kind of get its thing. It was like Ezra's Jedi training, and it was like I don't know, 10 cards or whatever it was, and Sabine's artwork, and like I think Zeb was like his specific like battles was that kind of thing. But and Kanan was all about like Jedi teachings. Like Hera was like her best piloting moments. It was like that kind of stuff. But like
Oh.
Sabine's artwork, I remember going through like finding the big moments where like she spray painted the TIE fighter, her dealing with the mural, making the rebel symbol. There was like a whole bunch of that kind of stuff throughout the series. So it was really like separated. Like you could see how
Yeah.
each character was very well developed and brought like a major skill set to the team that like filled in the blind spots of other people. So
Dang, I would have
um,
loved to have been on that set. Although I
yeah.
started in 2018, so that was the end of
Well,
Rebels.
Well,
But
that's the thing. I wanted to do this after all 4 seasons had come out and do a
oh,
comprehensive set that
cool.
was everything. So I wanted like a full seasons
Sign
1 through
me up.
4. Like, this is the whole story. We know that the story's over. You're going to get like a base set. I wanted the base cards actually instead of characters because there are 80 something episodes to be
Yeah.
like a base card for every episode and then like some major moments or whatever to fill in the rest of the 100 cards because you always need like a 100 card base set and then a character insert of like the major heroes and villains, those inserts that I talked about. It's like a very overdone set, though. I wrote this brief, and my boss was like, "You're a lunatic." Also, like, will this sell? Because who are the autograph signers, right? Like the biggest names in the show are Freddie Prinze and Sarah, and of course Ian McDermott pops in. And yeah,
Yep.
4,000 base card set.
Totally, Dave.
But like we had a lot of Star Wars product at the time, and there were new movies coming out, and like we were getting ready for the launch of the Mandalorian. Like it was just not a priority, so I never got to make it. But
Aw.
I'm sure, I know I didn't save any files from my time, obviously. But like I remember like the idea of what that set looked like in my head. So I'm sure I could recreate it. And like if I had to put pen to paper, I'm sure I could like redo what I think it should be. But in my mind, I was like, we should have dual autographs with Taylor Gray and every single person and whoever was in the show, like just tons of them, like because it's a one time we're ever
Yeah,
gonna do it. Like that'd be really fun.
it
Um,
would have been.
yeah, but it's the kind
Mhm.
of thing where I was like, I don't know if that's like $1 million product, right? Like that's the real question. Like, will it be like a gigantic hit? Like, who cares about Rebels, especially 5 years ago, right? Like that's really the question. So,
Gotta wait
anyway, sorry,
until
we
like
got into a whole tangent here.
2014 or what? So 2004, so 2024 will be what, 10 years.
And
So gotta
10th
wait until you hit
anniversary.
like a milestone and then
Yeah, I'll
go
email
from
the
there.
people I still talk to at Tops and be like, hey, you should do a 10th anniversary Rebel set. I'll come on as
Yeah,
like a
sign me the
consultant.
heck up.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so top moments. Ashley, do you want to go first? Ashley, then Jamie, and then I'll.
So my top moment obviously was not only Sabine training with Kanan and Ezra to wield the Darksaber, but also Gar Saxon being involved and kind of guiding them into having more patience with her because of what she's gone through as a Mandalorian and as a Imperial defector, and giving her the Mandalorian gauntlets that she used in her training. That whole scenario, just it kind of led to a deeper understanding of Sabine and why she's so sheltered and so closed off, and it allowed Fen Rao to be part of the group as well, because they see he's kinder to her and more respectful than he was at the beginning, and it's just like he learns that they're there for good and to help Mandalore. So but just seeing her growth and the walls come down and her being able to tell Kanan, albeit as she kicks him down a hill, yeah, way to beat up the blind guy, Sabine, to just open herself up to them, and we learn so much more about her than we did before.
Shocking to nobody, mine is also Trials of the Darksaber.
Yeah.
There is a pinpoint moment when the breath literally left my lungs, and I was like, oh. And it actually is that moment where she manages to block Kanan and literally kick him down a hill, because it's not so much that she landed the hit, it's that she landed the hit in a literal moment of catharsis. Whenever I talk about the Trials of the Darksaber, the only word that comes to mind is literally catharsis for her, because this is a young girl, a child who has lived through things that adults themselves haven't even lived through. And, every member of the crew has their own trauma, like right down to Chopper. They all have their own trauma.
Yeah.
And they've all kind of dealt with it really differently. We saw Hera's heroes, and we've seen a lot of Hera's trauma. We've seen Kanan right off the bat. I mean, and then of course Kanan goes blind. We've seen Ezra go through all of this loss and trying to figure out his path in the world. We see Chopper as being like the survived a bunch of Clone Wars era war stuff, and Zeb trying to find his homeland. Sabine's so bottled up, and I think it's so easy to be unaware of how much she's been through, because we haven't gotten her whole full story by that point. But she's telling you at the beginning of the episode, she's telling everybody, I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want this Darksaber thing. I don't want to lead Mandalore. I don't want to train with it. And for somebody who is a weapons expert, somebody who has a brilliance in weapons, to say, I don't want to touch that, I think is the first sort of like red flag that this is more than just a weapon to her. And then to go through all of those moments where she's so built up and so frustrated as she's training with Ezra, and she doesn't really want to hear it from anybody, but then she eventually, Kanan kind of keeps needling at her to get the story out, because I think he knows that if she can get this out, it will allow her to be that much stronger. So when she lands that punch on Kanan and Kanan goes, tumbling back, it's like this peak moment of like, she did it. Like, yeah, she did it. She was able to kind of overcome. And man, when I think about moments in Star Wars, not just in Rebels, when I think about moments in Star Wars, that episode, especially that moment, is like right up there in like my top 5 favorite moments in anything Star Wars.
Seriously.
Maybe even my top 3.
Because you get to hear the horrors of war on children. Mm-hmm. Like it's never been so explicitly stated before, at least that I can remember in Star Wars. Obviously we see, but to have something happen off camera and that has cut this person so deeply and traumatized this person so deeply, it as you said, it's catharsis in its purest form.
Yeah, it was I remember watching that episode for the first time and then just being absolutely rattled by like the whole thing, and just like stepping away and like, I have to sit down and think about this. That was that episode is also, like, from a personal standpoint, really important to me. That was the episode I was watching when I got the call that my dad had passed, and that was the moment I decided that if I was having a daughter, she would be Sabine. So yeah, Trials of the Darksaber is one that is, Trials of the Darksaber is one that's like with me for life. It's definitely, it was the defining moment when I told Dan, I said, if we're having a daughter, her name is Sabine. But then, of course, to be watching it, literally getting that phone call was not a great day in my house.
No.
But yeah, I love it. Absolutely, forever and always my number one favorite Sabine moment.
It's my number one as well. For
Yeah,
all the same
I'm sure it
reasons that
was.
you guys
Yeah.
mentioned. It's such a moment in the series too, because I feel like for a lot of the first two seasons of Rebels, it was such a focused story about Ezra and Kanan and their training, and everything else was tangential, and they're part of, like, yes, it's a crew and they're all supposedly equal, and Hera is mom, but like Sabine didn't get a lot of development, at least the same quantity of development that Ezra did. And then as we get into season three, her story really takes off and she becomes as important as Ezra. And I think in some ways they were like, hey, we're teeing up a finale where Sabine is the last woman standing. We better make
Mhm.
sure that we give her the backstory she deserves, flesh it
Mhm.
out, tell the audience what it is, and set up like what her future could be. And I think this episode gets to all of the past trauma. She like verbalizes it. Tia does an amazing job in
Yeah.
that moment. Like you can hear her like huffing and puffing and screaming and like, and my brother. And then she says her brother. We didn't know she had a brother. Like I was like,
Yeah.
who's this brother? Like there's all these things that come out during the moment of catharsis, as it were, where the trauma comes to the top, and we get a good resolution there. And yeah, she's able to she can wield the weapon, right, which we saw Mando really struggle with. So and by the way, if I picked it up too, I'd slice myself right in the leg. Remember when he sliced himself in the leg, and everyone's like the most relatable moment in all of Star Wars.
He did that,
That's
but
all of us.
Sabine didn't. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. And she's a
So
16-year-old girl. Bam.
yeah, I know she is one of the best when it comes to wielding weapons, as Jamie said, right? And
Yeah.
she was nervous to even touch the thing. And by the end, she leads the charge. As we get to Heroes of Mandalore, like she's got it raised up, with her the dark saber, along with Ezra's lightsaber and everyone else, and they're on their way. So it
Yeah.
sets up a really strong season 3 and season 4, and then the whole Mandalorian storyline then kicks into a whole live action show. So
Yeah.
Sabine is really a catalyst for a lot of that. So
And I
Yeah.
think
amazing.
Kanan helping walk her through understanding the weapon as a Jedi
Yeah.
would, and learning to connect with it and connect with its core,
Yeah.
helped her wield it better than Din Djarin did, because Din didn't have the armor explaining that perspective
Yeah,
to her.
because she
Him.
wasn't gonna know about
Yeah.
the Jedi the Force connection, and it also bonded, I think, her and Ezra a little bit too, because now she's
Mhm.
going through the same training that Ezra just went through with Kanan, so they're being able to like, because they were always, in my mind, they were the same age and going through some of the same development, but she was always multiple steps ahead of him in
Mhm.
basically every level of maturity. Had been through the war already. He was
Yeah.
like newest to the cause and everything, and was sort of more of a kid. And then this time around, he's a little further along than she is at something, so she has
Right.
to learn from him. That was a swap. Like he was
Totally.
always learning from her, and now this time around, she had to rely on him, and it almost like strengthened their bond. She's like, oh, okay, like what's that phrase where it's like they give Jedi Padawans because you learn more as you teach others, right? So having a
Right.
Yeah.
Padawan actually helps you develop yourself. It's that same sort of idea
Yeah.
here, where like they both benefited mutually from all of this. And Kanan being at the top, like, by the way, I would like him to be my Jedi Master. Like, can I sign up for the Kanan lineage? Like, that feels like the right teacher for me anyway. I need a
Yeah.
very non-traditional. Like, I'm not gonna.
Non-traditional.
Yeah, I don't want to be in the academy. I like the idea of being taught by like an Ahsoka or a Kanan, even in Ezra, if Ezra gets to a place where he's capable. Like I don't want to be part of like uh the
Well,
main structure, the visiting the
it's
school.
it's desperate teaching is what it is.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have the structure behind you
Yeah,
anymore
no
when the
books.
temple is
Yeah.
it doesn't exist anymore,
The
you know?
sacred Jedi texts are
Um
missing.
yeah, when none of that exists anymore, it's kind of like a do or die moment. It's like, well, we got to teach you somehow. And
Yep.
honestly, like another great honorable moment. How come nobody mentioned all of them standing on top of the ghost, literally throwing sorry, can't swear, throwing stuff at Ezra
Yes.
to like deflect.
Well,
You know
that's a
Sabine was
great.
enjoying that.
Oh, hell yeah. But that's a great Ezra moment. And I was just thinking, right as you're saying the untraditional teaching, like, the do or die.
Chopper throwing
Yeah.
trash at him. Come on.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's so many great moments of that.
Or
I
like
also,
bolting himself to the floor as just trying to force lift him.
it's so
good.
stupid. I love it. Because we only did 5 a top 5, but we had a lot of overlap. I pulled up a listicle. I'm just going to read out the episodes for everyone.
Okay.
These are according to Screen Rant, which usually Screen Rant's not one of my major stopping points, but like I do Screen Crush and New Rock Stars and all of them. Screen Rant pulled together the 12 top Sabine Wren episodes. So 12 Out of Darkness, which J'aimie mentioned. That's when she and Hera have their sort of come to Jesus about following orders and whatnot. Fire Across the Galaxy, which we all know is a must watch for a variety of reasons, including the Ahsoka Lives. Blood Sisters, which features Ketsu, which is very exciting. Protector of Concord Dawn, which is where we get to meet Fen Rao. The Antilles Extraction, which of course is where she rescues Wedge and Hobby from the Imperial Academy. Imperial Super Commandos, which she goes up against Gar Saxon. Visions and Voices, which is when she actually gets the dark saber on Dathomir.
I can't believe that didn't really make it for any of us.
Where she's like possessed by a Night Sister. You know what it is? Like
we got
she's
scared.
on the
We blocked
defensive
it
that
out.
whole episode. Like, and yes, she like grabs the dark saber, but like that's a great Maul episode. Like, not a great
she's
Sabine episode.
possessed for a chunk of that. So we don't
also,
think
Anna
of it
Graves
as
is in there, so that makes it a must watch to begin with. You know, I heart her. Love her. And then Trials of the Darksaber, which I can't believe is not the number 1 on this list.
Yeah,
but,
I want to know what number 1 is then.
Legacy of Mandalore is number 4, which is when she uses the Darksaber to fight Fen Rao. Or not Fen Rao.
Gar Saxon.
Gar Saxon. 0 Hour, Part 2, which I think is weird as a choice for must watch for Sabine, but okay. And then Heroes of Mandalore, Parts 1 and 2, which makes a lot of sense. And then Family Reunion and Farewell, which of course watch the Rebels finale. But like, is that a great Sabine episode? I think that's a great episode of Rebels.
The epilogue.
The narration.
She delivers this epilogue.
Yeah. We've passed the ball to her. She is now the protector of Lothal, right? For all, intents and purposes. Like, she is really now in charge of Lothal, whether it's Ryder Azadi or whoever else. So that's the list. So if you really just want to hone in on Sabine, those I don't know if there are any other episodes. We'll probably go through again and see, like, add to the comments if there's any on there that we absolutely think you should watch. I think she's in 60 something of the 80 episodes, if not more. Like, it says on here, according to IMDb, Tia Sircar is credited in 66 of the 75 episodes.
Checks out.
So it's weird to me that she wouldn't be in necessarily all of them, but like, there's very little. She doesn't miss anything big, is what it comes down to.
Right.
I'm trying to think like where she doesn't appear, and I think it's after she rejoins her family on Mandalore. There are a couple episodes after that where she's off on Mandalore and they're doing other things.
Yeah, they're on Yavin, and she's not there. So
she's also not in. No, I guess she is in the end. Just kidding. It's been a minute. So go back and rewatch some of these myself.
There's probably a couple, like, we talked about side quests where it's like just Ezra and Kanan, and for some reason like Sabine's not there. That happens every now and then, but I think
like what happened on Malachor. Like,
I was gonna say, was she in the Malachor episodes? That was what I was thinking about. Like, was she in the Malachor episodes?
So she's not in Twilight of the Apprentice.
She's in Twilight Part 1, I thought, but I could be wrong. Siege of Lothal.
I know she's in the second episode, but only in the end credits, where like that end montage, but she doesn't say anything, so she wouldn't be credited. Tia wouldn't be credited for that.
Yeah, because they're bringing Kanan back on, and he's blinded.
Right,
so.
she's there, but she doesn't say anything.
She doesn't say anything. So Sabine is standing there, but yes. Right. So technically, I guess Sabine is in that episode, but yeah, she doesn't do anything in Twilight of the Apprentice. That must be crazy too. Imagine working on the show for 60 something episodes and you're not in Twilight of the Apprentice, the one that everyone says it's rated like 10 out of 10 on IMDb. It's everyone's favorite episode. I'd be so pissed. But she has quite the legacy anyway, though. I mean, these episodes that Screen Rant listed are all amazing. And while our top 5 list was very overlappy, there's still so many other great moments of Sabine, just little things here and there, just her dialogue and her banter with Ezra throughout, her love and appreciation of art, the way she throws down with Thrawn, like,
Listen, I have to throw this one in though, because I'm sorry, my feral brain didn't even put this in. None of us mentioned Sabine saving the hollow of the Bridgers to give to Ezra on his birthday.
Oh, we're terrible people!
Come on! Sorry, I know.
We were picking like big
little moments.
We were picking big
that
moments.
That was such a good one.
Yeah, she figured
to me,
out
that
like
is
what happened.
Happy birthday, Ezra Bridger.
It's her taking the this kid is annoying me part down, and her being a little more empathetic towards him.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
that was a side quest, I guess. But I'm like, oh, that
No, I
was a
love
really
that.
good
no,
moment.
But
that's
look, Empire
good.
Day, Empire
Ah,
Day,
It's
and
Empire. It's Empire Day. Yeah.
I forget the follow-up episode, but yeah, it's a two-parter, and great story there. And we get
so good.
Ezra's full backstory and what
And
happened to his
SIBO.
parents. Yeah,
And
Zebo,
SIBO.
which is he wears the same headpiece as Lando's guy. Oh my God, why am I blanking on everything right
Lobot.
now? Yeah, Lobot. See, my brain is melted. We did an hour, and now my brain just wants to turn off. It's like, okay, you're done now. Um, by the way, this was so fun. I
Yeah,
think that this might become an ongoing series that we do. Oh my God, did you get your jersey?
I got
Mine
it.
shipped.
It came in
Nice.
today.
That's awesome.
Yeah, mine
Speaking
shipped.
of Sabine,
Yes.
I am Spectre 5.
Very nice.
So
That's
I
fantastic.
had to give my girl a shout out.
Party. We've got some
Party.
great merch for the VCN. The Pride merch is still up. The patriotic merch is still up. The regular just Rebels Revisited show merch. We've obviously got Daughters of the Galaxy merch,
Yes.
which is very, very
Yeehaw.
exciting, featuring Sabine.
Yes.
Yeah, there she is.
She's even wearing our shirt. It's Sabine
Part of the
endorsed.
new armor.
So yeah,
Yes.
exactly. It's been in her family for hundreds of minutes. So
Hundreds of minutes.
yeah. All right, so ladies, you have a show coming up this week that
Yeah, we do.
I think
Wednesday.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
There has been some confusion because I know some folks reached out to me on Instagram thinking that there was a show on Wednesday the 30th. As Mark reminded me, there were 5 Wednesdays in August, which was very confusing. Yeah, it was really confusing. So I was like, oh no, we have a show
we all
tonight.
were. I've been 25 chats
Very
on the
confused.
VCN. No one understood the calendar.
Very confusing, but we'll be
Yeah.
back. So you're watching this on Monday. We'll be back in 2 days, and we're going to talk about 2. I feel like Ashlee, like, check me on this, but like underrepresented and underloved characters. We're going to talk about Luminara and Barris.
Seriously, like people that were responsible for like some pretty like pivotal moments in Clone Wars. So we just want to get to the bottom of them and the Padawan and Master relationship. And what did Barris Offee do?
I don't know. I've become a full-on Jedi apologist, so this is going to be an interesting show.
Well, you know me. I said it on something a few weeks ago. Where I was like, #Barris was right, and boy did that ignite. So
It's
yeah,
Put it on a
topic.
shirt. Put it on
Yeah.
a shirt.
It's a
Yeah, I
spicy
know.
topic.
So-
I don't.
exactly. It
Green
will be
I
one.
don't know about
spicy.
bombing the temple, but she did have some. She made
Yeah.
Sis
She
made,
made
some
good
points.
points. Look, she's
Sis made some
Killmonger,
points.
right? She made some good points, but she did some things that she shouldn't have done.
Yeah, I don't know
and I
about
think
blowing up the
that's
temple.
She like rolled up on
Yeah.
Ahsoka and was like, "Hey, Auntie." Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and she framed her
Oh my
best
God.
friend and then tried to kill Anakin. Look, it's a busy
Normal.
day at the temple.
NBD.
So
Normal.
we all go a little crazy. Look, sometimes things get a little out of hand. So I think that's the pull quote for all things Jedi related when things go.
Thanks,
The dark
Dave.
side tempts you, and I
You
think
know?
by the way, I'm not on screen for this episode. I have so many thoughts on Barris Offee. I'm gonna do like an
Mark
after
will be
show
in the
just about
chats
Barris. Be
being like
I'll be
lightning
like,
fingers.
if you think I haven't
Maybe
already
this is
loaded
fun.
#Barris was right into the Daughters of the Galaxy, like
Yeah, it's definitely she's a spicy one, and it's been fun like rewatching some of those episodes because I was like, yeah, worm going in her brain, yeah. Oh yeah, we're gonna bomb the temple. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
it goes from 0 to 100, and
It
like,
really
oh, it's like, hey, we're gonna meet, and then we almost die, and then we almost die again, and then, oh, I hate the Jedi, it's over. Like,
Okay, I remember like after the worm episode when it was revealed that she was the bomber. My friend was such a Barris apologist that she was just like, "Are you sure there's not like still those worm in her brains, like
Oh.
controlling her, telling her to
I
say all
never
this
even
stuff?
thought of that.
Somebody check
Mhm.
her, make sure she's okay." And I'm like, "No, like listen to the girl,
Yeah.
jeez."
Well,
Well, and then
I
we've got
joke
the
all the
obvious
go ahead.
Rebels tie-in with Luminara, right? We
Yes.
get
Oh,
calcified Luminara. So
Oh,
there's
you
a
know, I
lot
joke
going
all the
on.
time that she deserved it. So, but for the way she treated Barris, and she was
yeah.
willing to let Ahsoka die and Barris. So I'm like, all right, lady, no one deserved this, but I'll allow it. I was very callous about it.
And as I
you know,
said last week on Rebels Revisited, I really think that Barris allowed the Inquisitors to use Luminara's body and to like trap Jedi. I think she was so disillusioned that she's just like, "Here,
Mhm.
do what you want."
I have a lot of thoughts about this. So I think if Vader actually, so Order 66, a lot of people escaped, right? Like a bigger number than we ever realized escaped and then had to be chased down after the fact. If Vader captured Luminara, would he hold the same grudges that Anakin did? And Anakin had a lot of issues with Barriss, but remembers Luminara willing to let Ahsoka and Barriss die because like he and Luminara clashed, right? Luminara was by the book, Jedi rules, cold, distant, no attachments. And he was like, "You're nuts. I'm not letting my Padawan die. What's wrong with you, lady?" Like, and they were like, you could see like he was ready to lightsaber her there, right? Like right on that planet. Like
Yeah.
you could see the dark side brewing. Would he bring that same energy and be like, you know what, I have special plans for you. Like killing you isn't enough. Or was Barriss involved? Like, could she have made a phone call being like, you know, from inside? Because imagine she's inside the prison, the Jedi Temple guard who turns into the Grand Inquisitor busts her out, they team up, right? That's a fun little duo team up that I've been imagining as a comic in my head for a while.
That'd be cool.
And they're like,
yeah.
you know what? Who's target number one? Luminara, right?
Yeah.
Let's get her. And we're not going to kill her because we're going to have way more fun than that. So it's like we're going to prison
This is
her.
So dark.
I know. It's so
dark.
bleak. It's so dark. I know it's
How
terrible.
do you sleep at night?
I know. Ask your husband. So, by the way, that's the only answer to that question. Is
yeah.
it's a good response right there.
Yes.
In all seriousness, like that's the kind of stuff I think about, like the actual motivations of like the dark side users. Like, no, I know it's messed up, Jamie. I'm broken.
Bust out the book, Jamie. This is happening.
So anyway, I'm sorry, we're getting way ahead of ourselves and we're off topic.
So the show's on Wednesday.
The show's on Wednesday.
So you want to hear more of Mark's headcanon?
We're gonna let Ashlee and Jamie take you through what actually
and Mark in the chat
with Barriss and Luminara. And I would just be behind the scenes like this the whole time. So it's gonna be great.
I can't wait to see how this unfolds. I'm shook to my core. Listen, okay, I get 2 for this show because now it's stuck in my head. But like the Miralaran Jedi are so fascinating, and you have the absolute antithesis of both of them in the High Republic, and then you have these 2 in the Clone Wars, and it's like,
yeah, make sure you bring in your High Republic stuff to compare to. For sure.
Yes,
don't worry.
Yeah,
I don't travel without them.
Binder under the table. She's like, wait a minute. Here we go.
I've been on a few of the shows, as you guys know, and I think that I think that we prepare more heavily than most shows. Like I think that when I look at the Google Docs as a comparison, who does more pre-research or comes in with not a script, but like bullets we want to hit, I think Rebels Revisited is very well organized and we know what we're going to do. Daughters of the Galaxy is also in that same tier of like, we are prepared. We bring notes. We've got stacks. Like we are ready, right?
We love our
other shows kind of wing it. And then other shows sometimes forget what their topic is. It is wild how varied it is across the network. We also fall off the rails very easily, right?
Mark, we're still live.
Like, I know we're talking about Barriss Offee now and the other shows on the network. But like that's the kind of thing. Yes, there are a Google Doc. It's so gigantic. So
it's our Google Bible.
We come super prepared. So you guys can be sure that when you tune in on Wednesday and hear about Barriss and Luminara, we got you covered. From the prequels to the Clone Wars, conspiracy theories, all the stuff. Ashlee and Jamie are going to take good care of you on this episode. And if you don't know about these fascinating characters, strap in. It's going to be bonkers. I think this is where this show is going to shine on characters that people don't know. They're going to fall in love with because you guys are going to take them through it.
I'm terrified.
We love things. We love things in order to make you love things. That's what we do here.
It's full Jehovah's Witness conversion. We're showing up at your doorstep being like, you're going to join our religion, right? Like, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm on like a don't approach within 30 feet of some of these people. something Star Wars restraining order, something.
Oh my God.
I got a few of
when
those.
I first became friends with one of the guys I worked with, like I started talking to him about like Star Wars and things like that. And he was so intimidated that he just like stopped talking mid-sentence and just walked away. And I was like,
backs up.
what did I do? And he was like, no.
He's
like, it was so adorable and you were really excited about it, but I couldn't think of anything else to say. So I just walked away and I'm like, thanks.
You know, I used to joke about like Star Wars cults, and then I started reading books where Force cults were a real thing. So yeah, I'm just going to start taking pages from there and going to Force cult my way into making friends. It's going to be great.
You will watch our show. This is the show you're looking for. And with that in mind, we have a crazy week of programming. So obviously today, Monday, Rebels Revisited. We'll be back next week. We haven't decided on our topic yet. We will do more of these though. I love the idea of like bringing in J'aimie, especially when we do like the best of Hera,
I love J'aimie.
and and continuing to bring in other guests from across the network, because now we have a really wide range of shows on the network. There have been some new additions. This week you'll see Rebels Revisited is Monday. We've got this past Wednesday was the premiere of the Nerf Herders. This Wednesday, the 6th, is the return of Daughters of the Galaxy with Barriss and Luminara, which is very exciting. Thursday is the watch along for the next episode of Ahsoka. We also have the Ahsoka after show on Fridays, and then on Sundays it alternates. Also, first and third. And then second and fourth. So keep in mind that it's the same thing where, like, if a fifth Sunday hits, it will skip. That's what happened this August with Daughters of the Galaxy and the Nerf Herders. So they don't overlap, which is great. But yeah, another really fantastic week of programming ahead. Please join us and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Tell your friends to subscribe. If you're in the Facebook group, subscribe to see all the content coming up on YouTube. And yeah, keep up with, we'll put up the graphic of everything coming up this week, and follow us on all of our social channels at Virtual Cantina Network.
Yeah, because you all know that Facebook isn't exactly the most reliable thing on the planet. So, subscribing on YouTube is actually the best way to watch our show.
Yeah, and hit us on all the other social channels too. I'm using Instagram more and more as I'm trying to divest from Twitter. I just can't handle it over there anymore. And I'm on Threads, but no one's using it. Guys,
I live on Instagram. Let's party.
Yeah, Instagram is where it's at. So I like my stories. They disappear in a day. So if I said something and you missed it, you missed it. So did I say it? Maybe I didn't. Maybe Barriss wasn't right. Maybe we'll find out tomorrow.
Screenshots are forever, Mark.
Yeah.
Screenshots are forever.
Yeah, exactly. I've definitely done a few of those where I was like, this is going to disappear. Get it. I think that's it for this week. J'aimie, thank you so much for being our guest
thanks,
this
J'aimie.
week.
Always
And we'll see you in a couple days on the Daughters of the Galaxy.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone for joining us. Hope you had a fantastic Labor Day. Thank you for celebrating Summer of Snips with us as well. And then keep up with everything else happening on the network. And we will see you next week. May the Force be with you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. See ya.